Hi, my name is Khairunnisa Intiar, but I am better known as Inda. That's my nickname since I was born. I'm originally from Indonesia, but I've lived in Canada for the last 10 years in New Brunswick, in Moncton and Fredericton. And in between, I grew up across 6 other countries. So that really shaped who I am today. I'm always searching for a place where I feel like I belong and a sense of home. That's still ongoing, but I kind of feel at home everywhere and nowhere, which is what sort of informs what I do and why I do what I do. In Moncton now, where I've lived in the past 5 years, I think, or so, I have been working as a business journalist. I cover business stories and economy stories here in Moncton and also New Brunswick. I've been doing that for the last 2 years, I think. And I also started a nonprofit project with a few friends here called Woven Cultures. And the company that I work for as a journalist is called Huddle Today. And through my work with Huddle, we try to bring up the stories of innovative New Brunswickers and people who want to start and see a change and does it sort of in their province. So we're bringing up the stories of entrepreneurs who are cool, and also stories on immigration, economy, and all that. And through my nonprofit, Woven Cultures, that I started with 2 other friends from Western Africa, and also my sister joined in later, we do a lot of work in diversity and inclusion, including having events that connect adults from all sorts of cultural backgrounds, and also workshops and presentations for children and adults as well, to sort of promote the positive value of diversity and also learn through each other how to be more inclusive. So the whole service thing, I think it started with my family. My father, we traveled a lot because my father worked as for our foreign ministry in Indonesia, and so he's a civil servant. He was a civil servant. He just retired. My mom was a teacher, and my grandfathers from both sides. One was a journalist and a politician, and the other one was served in our military. So there was that running deep. And in addition, I realized that I had a very easy life compared to a lot of people. I had a lot of chances that I got because my parents worked in the fields that they do, or because because they were working hard in the fields that they do. I was lucky enough, to be able to speak English at a young age, for example, and go to international schools, live in different countries, even though life is up and down when you move a lot like that. But for the most part, it was a privileged upbringing, and it gave me a chance to study in Canada with a scholarship. I did have to sleep with the dictionary next to me before my SATs. That was how much I wanted to learn to live independently abroad by myself. But there was push from my parents too. My mom went to school as an international student in Germany, and it was life-changing for her. So she wanted all of us, her children, to experience that sort of like learning from being abroad by herself. And so I was lucky in that terms, and I just see that there are a lot of kids around the world who didn't have the same chances as I do. And once I realized that, I wanted to sort of give back. I feel like it's a responsibility for all of us who have some privilege in our lives to do that, to give the same chances to other people. Yes, I do feel like there is a volunteer culture in Canada. And I don't know if it's like a big city thing or a small city thing, or if it's an East Coast thing or not, but I do feel like I see that everywhere around me, from my friends in university, kids in high school, and everything. So I think I have adopted that into my life, and the culture that I've created from all the homes that I've had. So yes. And so from Woven Cultures, we have events like Language Lounge. That's sort of like a place where everyone that speaks different languages can just practice whatever language they want, meet new friends, connect with people. We do workshops at schools. We've been doing a little bit less because we've been getting busier with other projects as well. But we work with teachers and people who work with children in a multicultural setting, people who work in immigration, to help us shape that, to make sure that the workshops are engaging and it's actually effective for kids. We've had invitations in different cities in New Brunswick to do those workshops and presentations, and sometimes business groups or groups of adults sometimes ask us to do presentations or workshops too. So that's what we do. And we also have like dancing in the park, and where we connect people through dance. And we have events we have video also where we try to address cross-cultural differences. So something as simple as looking someone in the eyes, or shaking hands or not shaking hands, that could create a conflict between people who are not as well versed in cross-cultural education. So understanding that culture could make someone behave a certain way, actually out of respect most of the time, is understanding how people, I guess, express their respect or their desires or whatnot in a cultural context, can help people communicate better and work together better, because New Brunswick is becoming more diverse with more immigration and employers and schools and universities. We're seeing more mixed race, mixed cultural households, and with people coming from other parts of Canada that are more diverse as well. So it's time for our province to embrace that. So one of the videos that we did was tackles the issue of looking at someone in the eyes, which is really funny because one of our team members, his name is Jabbar, he's from Benin. And when he first came to university here, we're all former international students, so we drew on our experiences as from that. And he said that he went to his professor and he wouldn't look him in the eye because he felt like it was disrespectful. But at the same time, the professor looks at him like, what's wrong, man? Like, why are you being disrespectful, or why are you being shifty? So in Canada, not looking someone in the eyes could mean something bad. But for someone from Benin, that could mean actually looking someone in the eyes could mean something like you're challenging that person or you're being disrespectful. So even understanding something as small as that could help communication become better. So I was lucky enough to be accepted to the Canada C3 expedition in 2017. That was a Canada 150 signature project. So I applied because I was on the process of applying to become a Canadian citizen, and I didn't know much of anything really about Indigenous history. And I didn't feel like I should be Canadian. Or should be a Canadian citizen before I know at least a little bit of that history. And so when I got lucky enough to be accepted to this expedition, and I met a lot of people from all different parts and different professions and different cultural backgrounds in Canada, and including some Indigenous friends. And on the ship, it was only a 10-day leg of it's a 150-day expedition, but I was only there for 10 days. And I sat next to a friend of mine, or someone who became a friend of mine, who is Ojibwe from Ontario. Has a great career in Canadian politics, but he had his downtimes, and he told me about his traumatic experiences, and he told the whole ship really about his traumatic experiences. And now the issues that happen to Indigenous communities it feels like now it's personal. Now I actually know people affected. And not that you shouldn't care even if you don't know people who are affected, but when there was a real person next to me that was affected by all of this, I couldn't you can't turn away anymore. You can't just turn the other cheek. because that's when it became like, okay, these things, we all have a role to play in making a Canada that we want to see, that's more inclusive, that's better, that's more innovative, sustainable, eco-friendly and all that. And I also, like, two major conversations that I had on the ship that I won't ever forget is one with the expedition leader. His name's Jeff Green. So he said, we talked about like, hey, Jeff, have you ever like considered running for politics? And he said, he was talking about like all the things that come with becoming a politician, and he said, you know what, like, as a private citizen, you can do a lot too. Of course, some things need to change at a government level, but you don't have to wait for government to create a change that you want to see. And the second one was with our ship captain, Stefan, and he said, I was talking to him about like what life advice, like, can you give me life advice about like work and career and stuff? And he said, well, you know what, money is something you can always look for, money is something you can work for, you always need money to live, but you have to find a way to follow what really lights up your spirit, like what lights a fire within you, that's like, follow that. So I kind of have been doing everything that I've learned from there for the past 2 years, because I've been thinking recently about belonging and home and all that. I kind of wish that the world was borderless and we don't have to have passports, because it sort of ties people into boxes almost. It keeps people in boxes. As a, sometimes you feel like, okay, if you hold a Canadian passport, therefore you have to be Canadian, and Canadian is this and this and this and this. And if you have an Indonesian passport, you're an Indonesian. And Indonesian is this and this and this. And if you don't stay where your passport says you were from, then you don't love your country that much, or you don't love your home that much, which I think is really silly. I can still love, but I'm like, why would you have to love only people from one place? Why can't you love everyone in this world? And so that, I still haven't figured that out, but I think if we don't need passports or anything, I think the world will connect better. Maybe, I don't know if this is true or not, this is just a thought. But I remember talking, I've had this identity crisis for a long while and I feel a lot of me is very Canadian, a lot of me is very Indonesian, a lot of me is everything in between, of all the places that I've called home. And I fear losing a part of my identity when I give up a certain passport. So in my quest to become a citizen of Canada so that I can vote and contribute more to the place that I live in, I'm afraid of losing my Indonesianness, or the eastern part of me or something, I don't know. But I was talking to my sister-in-law's father, and he said, nobody, whether you change your whatever passport you hold, nobody can take away the parts of you that make you you. You are also Indonesian, and I grew up Muslim, so I have those cultural traits within me. And I also have lived in Canada for so long that I feel like super Canadian too. So he's like, you're still Indonesian, you're still Canadian, it doesn't matter what passport you hold. And so that was something that I was like, that's right. Why would I let anything or anyone take that away from me? So that's still an important part that I wanted to mention, because I'm still trying to figure out what is the best way to create impact, as much as I like personally can. So I'm still in between, wanting to study public policy and maybe becoming a policymaker or influencing policy somehow, or do I start my own social enterprise and empower people from the ground up? I'm still not sure what the balance is there and where I should go, but as you said, I don't need to figure things out. I don't need to figure everything out now. I still have a lot of time. So yeah, wish me luck on where I go next.